Hello and welcome back to UK Finance Explained. In our previous lessons, we've covered payroll deductions and tax codes. Today, we are going to look at another important part of UK payroll, national insurance. If you've ever looked at a UK payslip and seen the national insurance deduction, you may have wondered, what exactly is it? Why is it deducted from an employee's pay? How is it calculated? And what does the NI category mean? By the end of this lesson, you'll have a clear, beginner-friendly understanding of national insurance and how it fits into the payroll process. Let's start with the basics. National insurance, often abbreviated to NI, is a system of contributions paid by employers, and certain self-employed people. For employees, national insurance is normally deducted directly from their wages through payroll. So when an employee receives their payslip, they may see deductions for income tax, NI, workplace pension contributions, and any other deductions. NI is therefore an important part of calculating an employee's net pay. National insurance contributions help fund certain areas of the UK's social security system. They can contribute towards entitlement to certain state benefits and the state pension, depending on the individual's circumstances and contribution record. However, it's important to understand that NI is not the same thing as income tax. Both may be deducted from an employee's pay, but they are separate systems with different rules. So remember, income tax does not equal national insurance. It is not the same as national insurance. They are calculated separately. Let's look at the employee side first. When an employee earns above the relevant national insurance threshold, they may have employee NI contributions, deductions from their pay. The amount depends on factors such as the employee's earnings, the relevant thresholds, the employee's national insurance category, and the tax year. This is why payroll professionals need to use the correct payroll information when processing pay. There is also the employer national insurance. This is different from the employee contribution. The employer may have to pay an additional NI contribution based on the employee's earnings. Importantly, employer national insurance is not normally deducted from the employee's net pay. Let's make that distinction clear. Employee NI, this is deducted from the employee's pay. Employer NI, this is an additional cost for the employer. So if you are looking at an employee's payslip, don't assume that the employer's NI contribution is being taken from the employee's salary. Now let's look at something you'll frequently see in payroll. NI category letters. An employee is assigned a national insurance category. The category helps payroll determine which NI rules and rates apply. So, for example, one of the most common categories for employees is Category A. Other categories exist for different circumstances. The category can depend on factors such as the employee's age, whether they are an apprentice, whether they have reached state pension age, and other specific circumstances as well. This is why payroll professionals should never assume that every employee has the same NI category. So let's look at a few examples. So category A, this is the commonly used one for employees who are not subject to one of the special categories. Then we've got category C. This can apply to employees who have reached state pension age. Category H. This is used for certain apprentices under the relevant age conditions. Category M. This can apply to certain employees under the relevant age threshold. And there are several other categories and special rules. And the important lesson for beginners is that NI category can help determine how national insurance is calculated. Another important concept is thresholds. An employee doesn't necessarily pay NI on every pound they earn. Instead, NI is calculated using relevant earning thresholds. These thresholds can change between tax years. So, for example, there may be a level below which an employee doesn't pay employee national insurance. Once earnings move above the relevant threshold, NI becomes payable. The exact calculation depends on the employee's circumstances and the rules for the relevant tax year. That is why payroll professionals should always use the current tax year thresholds and rates rather than relying on old figures. Let's use a simplified example. Imagine an employee earns £2,500 gross pay for the month. The payroll record contains NI category A. So the payroll system looks at the gross earnings, the relevant NI thresholds, the applicable NI rates, the national NI category, and then it calculates the employee's national insurance contribution. The amount appears as a deduction on the employee's payslip. The employee's calculation might therefore look something like gross pay minus income tax minus employee NI minus other deductions, and that will equal your net pay. The exact NI amount would depend on the applicable rules for that tax year. This is one of the most important things to understand. So let's compare them. On the left, we've got income tax, and on the right, we have national insurance. So to calculate under income tax, we have calculate under income tax rules, and it uses tax codes and deducted through payroll. It also contributes to government revenue and can be affected by personal allowance. Under the national insurance column, we have calculated under NI rules, uses NI categories and thresholds, deducted through payroll, forms part of the national insurance system, and uses its own thresholds and rules. So even though both appear as deductions on a payslip, they are not the same calculation. Imagine you have two employees. Both employees earn exactly the same salary. You might assume they will have exactly the same NI insurance deduction, but that isn't necessarily the case. The circumstances could be different. For example, they could have different NI categories. This is why payroll professionals need to make sure the employee's NI category is correct before processing payroll. An incorrect category could result in an incorrect national insurance calculation. Let's return to our sample employee, Emily Brown. Imagine a payslip contains gross pay of 25, income tax, national insurance, and then her net pay. The national insurance figure represents the employee's contribution calculated by the payroll system. A payroll professional should be able to look at the payslip and understand where that deduction comes from. They don't necessarily need to calculate every payslip manually, but they should understand the underlying payroll principles. Now let's imagine Emily's employer also has an employer national insurance liability. The amount is an employer cost. It doesn't normally reduce Emily's net pay. This is the important distinction. Think about it like this. We have gross pay, then employee deductions, and then finally net pay. Under the employer, we have employees' gross pay, employer national insurance, and other employer cost. The employer therefore needs to consider employer national insurance when calculating the true cost of employing someone. You may also hear about national insurance number. This is different from a national insurance category. A national insurance number is a unique personal number used to make sure national insurance contributions and tax or certain tax records are correctly associated with an individual. For example, we have the NI number. This identifies the individual. And in the NI category, this helps determine how NI is calculated. These are two completely different things. Let's look at some common payroll mistakes beginners make and should watch out for. We have mistake number 1. Treat NI like income tax. NI and income tax are separate calculations. Mistake number 2, using the wrong NI category. The employee's circumstances need to be considered when determining the appropriate category. Or mistake number 3, using outdated thresholds. NI rules and thresholds can change. Always use the information applicable to the relevant tax year. Then we have mistake number 4, confusing employee and employer NI. Employee NI can reduce the employee's net pay. Employer NI is generally an additional cost to the employer. Then we've got mistake number 5, confusing an NI number with an NI category. An NI number, as we said before, identifies the individual. An NI category helps determine the national insurance calculation. Let's recap today's lesson. National insurance is a separate system from income tax. Employees may have national insurance deducted from their pay. Employers may also have an additional NI liability. The calculation depends on earnings, thresholds, rates, NI category, employee circumstances, and the relevant tax year. And remember, employee NI affects net pay. Employer NI is generally an additional cost to the employer. Now it's your turn. Imagine you are processing payroll for 3 employees. Employee A, gross pay 2,000, NI category A. Then we've got employee B, gross pay of 2,000 as well, and then NI category C. The same with employee C, same gross pay of 2,000, but the NI category is H. Your task is to answer, and please answer this in the comments below, in the comment section below. Number 1, why might these employees have different NI calculations? Number 2, what does the NI category tell the payroll professional? And number 3, is employer national insurance deducted from the employee's net pay? Pause the video and write down your answers before continuing. And that's your introduction to national insurance. You now understand that NI insurance or national insurance is the difference between employee and employer contributions, what NI categories are, and why NI needs to be calculated separately from income tax. As you continue learning payroll, you'll see NI appearing throughout the payroll process. And remember, you don't need to memorize every threshold or rate. A good payroll professional knows where to find the current rules and how to apply them correctly. If you are following along with the UK Payroll Fundamentals Workbook and Activity Guide, complete the national insurance activities to test your understanding. If you haven't downloaded the workbook yet, it includes practical exercises, case studies, quizzes, and real-world payroll activities to help you build your UK payroll knowledge. And don't forget to subscribe to UK Finance Explained for more beginner-friendly UK finance and payroll lessons. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.